On the crowded school track, feet took off racing at tremendous speed, where one student displayed exceptional swiftness that caught everyone's eye, finishing the race with a powerful stomp on the ground. Xu Jing's time was announced as 2 minutes, 36 seconds, and 79 hundredths of a second, amidst the astonishment of everyone at his amazing athletic performance. Shouts of admiration and enthusiastic cheers rose from the girls who crowded around the track, their eyes sparkling with hearts as they called out "Senpai" with intense admiration. While Xu Jing drank water to quench his thirst, his glistening appearance under the sunlight looked like a cinematic scene, which increased the screaming of the fans who described him as handsome. One of the students approached him shyly, offering him a handkerchief to wipe his sweat, so he looked at her with surprise for a moment before thanking her and accepting the handkerchief. As soon as he started wiping his sweat, the girl ran away, overwhelmed with happiness, because the senpai accepted her gift while he continued wiping his face calmly. At that moment, a transparent panel appeared in front of him announcing an increase in running experience by 20 points, and the running skill reaching level 3, so Xu Jing noticed that the points increased slightly more than usual. It didn't stop there, as another alert appeared indicating an increase in charm by 45 points amidst the girls' cheers, so he sighed with annoyance at this skill, which he considered useless, even though it develops very quickly. Suddenly, a tennis ball launched at rocket speed towards his face, piercing the air with force. With a lightning-fast movement, Xu Jing raised his hand, managing to catch the fastball with complete dexterity before it touched his face. Smoke rose from the ball as a result of the friction and force, while Xu Jing looked coldly towards the source, to see a person smiling threateningly from a distance. His friend Li Jai rushed towards him with concern, asking him what was happening, and Xu Jing asked him if he knew the person who attacked him. With a face filled with terror, Li Jai pointed his trembling finger towards the attacker, confirming that he knew him well. He explained that person is Bei Guang, known as the school tyrant, and wondered fearfully about the reason that made Xu Jing get involved in a conflict with him. Li Jai immediately deduced that the reason might be related to a woman again, advising his friend to accept one of the fans to stop attracting hostilities from the entire world. But Xu Jing threw the handkerchief away indifferently, saying he had no interest, which made his friend scream in protest that the bros were interested. Xu Jing ignored his friend's warnings that Bei Guang is not someone to be underestimated, and left the track simply saying he was going to exercise. While his friend thought that exercise was useless and he should learn martial arts, Xu Jing was smiling confidently, believing that his situation was completely different from others. The story goes back to a month ago where Xu Jing arrived mysteriously in this world that resembles Earth but is different. And with him arrived that transparent panel, which grants him points in strength, constitution, and agility whenever he exerts physical effort, confirming to him that effort brings rewards. Even in archery, every shot hit the target accurately, proving to him that hard work is never wasted. He discovered that as long as he trains to a certain degree, he can activate special skills, as his eye glowed blue, announcing the activation of the marksmanship skill of the first level. However, despite the great benefits of daily training, the physical consumption was massive, as his thoughts were interrupted by the sounds of his hungry stomach. He opened the fridge to find it completely empty, which frustrated him. He put on his shirt to cover his muscular athletic body, assuring himself that he doesn't train this hard just to show off. He went out walking in the city streets at night, in a place called the Fifth Urban Circle, hovering above the buildings as he contemplated his situation. He realized the truth of this world. The further out you go, the more poverty and ruin increase, and the further in you go, the more prosperity and nobility increase. He stood inside a grocery store, thinking that he had only half a year until graduation, wondering if he would fight to ascend to the inner circle or remain poor for life. He put his purchases in the basket, but when the saleswoman told him the bill was $210, he was shocked by the amount. With intense embarrassment, he began returning the goods one by one, abandoning his purchases due to lack of funds. In one of the dark and quiet alleys, Xu Jing was walking, complaining about the exorbitant prices, as the price of 5 eggs reached 30 units, making him mutter that this world had truly gone mad. Suddenly he stopped walking and froze in his place, sensing the presence of something in front of him in the darkness. A black cat with shiny eyes and a strange golden ring around its tail appeared in front of him, letting out a faint meow, making Xu Jing believe it was just a stray cat. But the cat suddenly fell on its side, motionless. So Xu Jing looked at it suspiciously, wondering if it was trying to trick him with some ruse. He approached it and squatted to examine it, noticing that its body was covered in wounds, leading him to conclude that it had just fought a losing battle. Meanwhile, she was saying in shock, unable to believe that the world of stray cats is this cruel and brutal. Xu Jing jumped back in panic, his eyes wide with astonishment, for he heard her voice clearly and wondered if the cat had just spoken, trying to comprehend what was happening with this strange creature. He returned to approach cautiously and extended his hand towards the golden ring on her tail to examine it closely. As soon as he touched it, the system panel appeared in front of him announcing the discovery of divine material and the start of absorbing divinity, which sparked his surprise at this strange term. This planet called Earth Star is a world known as Chu Xia. 287 years ago, an event occurred that shook existence, where God died and a giant celestial entity appeared crashing in the sky. On that witness day, all humans on the surface of the planet were eyewitnesses to this majestic and terrifying scene. Since then, the gods died, and humanity stood independent on its own. While Xu Jing continued his way carrying the cat he found, he made a vow to himself that he would continue to toil and train until he became a god himself. Xu Jing returned to his apartment and offered a bowl of cat food to the black cat, but she looked at the food with intense disdain and turned her face away. Xu Jing mocked her with a nervous smile, surprised how a stray cat could refuse food with such arrogance. But he suddenly remembered when the cat spoke in human language when he met her for the first time. Doubt began to creep into Xu Jing, and he wondered to himself if this creature was not a cat originally. He headed quickly toward the kitchen, leaving the cat in confusion watching his actions. He began cooking with skill and speed, where system notifications appeared granting him cooking experience points with every movement he made from chopping and frying. In the end, he presented a glowing and delicious dish of rice with steak and green peppers, asking her if she would accept eating it. The cat couldn't resist and pounced on the food with overwhelming happiness, her eyes shining and drool running from her mouth. Xu Jing sat watching her with a confident smile, confirming to himself that his guess was correct. The reason she speaks human language is that she is not a cat, but a human turned into a cat. He returned his gaze to the golden ring on her tail, deducing that it was the cause of her transformation, and at that moment the system announced the completion of absorbing divinity. A new skill appeared in front of him titled Twin Life, a divine skill requiring 500 divinity points to activate, a condition that was already met, so he didn't hesitate for a moment to accept the activation. He pressed the Yes button with a cunning smile, and a bright golden light exploded from the screen. Xu Jing stood in the middle of the room where the system confirmed the successful activation of the Twin Life skill. He read the details of the skill with astonishment. It grants him 2 lives, and allows him to freely choose the time of resurrection within 7 days after death, with a cooldown period for the skill of only 3 months. He couldn't believe his eyes, as the idea of returning to life within 7 days and such a short waiting period was beyond imagination. He stood amazed, likening it to the resurrection shield in games, wondering, if this is only the passive skill power, how would the active skill be then? Xu Jing looked at the system interface in front of him with a frown, as the active skill was still locked and required more divinity points to unlock, so he wondered to himself if he had to pay more of that energy. While the cat was devouring the food greedily and happily, he stood over her with darkness clouding his face, thinking coldly that all he had to do was continue absorbing energy from her. But upon closer inspection, he noticed the many wounds and scars covering her small body under the fur. His heart softened and his expression changed, realizing that continuing to absorb her energy while she was in this miserable state might be a completely inhumane act. He went down to her level and reached out to stroke her head gently, deciding to think of another alternative way to get energy. However, he couldn't simply let things go without insurance, so he suddenly grabbed her by the head amidst her sudden meow of protest. Xu Jing decided to go out first to look for any external clues regarding the source of divinity, leaving the cat behind in the apartment. He also aimed by going out to observe what the cat would do in his absence, closing the door behind him cautiously. As soon as he left, the cat's meek look suddenly turned into a sharp glare with glowing green eyes, and she sat in the darkness of the room, while Xu Jing watched her through a camera hanging in one of the corners of the apartment. The scene shifted to the outer ring of the city, where it is known that moving from it to the prosperous inner ring is extremely difficult. Even if someone managed to enter, the exorbitant fees required are enough to bankrupt a small wealthy family. And yet people do not stop flowing into it in huge numbers. Xu Jing walked in the dark alleys, thinking that most people are unaware of the existence of another way to ascend. That way lies in becoming a martial artist, for then all problems are solved automatically, and closed doors open. Suddenly a huge man carrying a bat blocked his way in the alley, calling him by his name, to which Xu Jing responded with a cold look, asking what the matter was. The gang surrounded him, and the bald leader asked him if he was the person Big Brother Beiyu Guang was watching, threatening him that he was as good as dead today. Xu Jing did not show any reaction, but asked coldly, "Which brother do you mean?" And before they could finish their words, he moved with lightning speed, leaving a blurry trail behind him. With one move, he knocked the huge man into the air, amidst the screaming and astonishment of the rest of the gang members. The gang members stood amazed, looking at their fallen leader amidst the debris, unable to comprehend what had just happened, wondering if he had made any move because they saw nothing clearly. He didn't give them a chance to comprehend, and began throwing fast punches that knocked them down one by one amidst cries of pain. His eyes shone with a blue light with the activation of the marksmanship skill, which increased the accuracy of his movements and focus. They fell to the ground in pain, but one of them rose surrounded by a blue aura, realizing that Xu Jing had some tricks, but they wouldn't be enough, so he rushed towards him, attacking forcefully. Thanks to the marksmanship skill, Xu Jing dodged the attack easily, noting with shock that this movement was real martial arts. The attacker turned around angrily after his attack failed, describing him as an agile brat. Xu Jing stood with a confident smile and his hands in his pockets, happy to discover that Beiyu Guang and his men mastered martial arts, saving him the trouble of looking for someone to ask about this world. He approached the attacker threateningly, asking him to tell him everything he knew or he wouldn't show any mercy. With a powerful blow, he slammed him against the wall, shattering the stones behind him from the intensity of the impact. The man collapsed to the ground, trembling with terror, calling Xu Jing Big Brother and announcing his total surrender and readiness to say anything. Xu Jing looked at him with contempt, mocking in himself his fake toughness that collapsed quickly. He realized that his opponent, despite his long wait, possessed nothing but that single move he executed. At that moment, a notification appeared activating the combat skill after meeting the conditions, where Xu Jing realized that the marksmanship skill not only improved his dynamic vision, but also increased the accuracy of his punches, making dealing with martial artists of Beiyu Guang's level an easy matter. The terrified man sat on the ground, begging in a voice filled with fear, pleading with Brother Jing to stop hitting him, while Xu Jing approached him with a terrifying aura and eyes glowing red. Xu Jing asked him with a cold smile about that punch he just used and the nature of that move. The man answered, sweat pouring from him, that it wasn't just a normal combat move, but internal force that relies on gathering energy from all parts of the body and then releasing it forcefully outwards. When Xu Jing inquired about how to train for it and the source of learning it, the man stammered, trying to evade, claiming he only learned the basics and couldn't explain clearly, asking for mercy. Xu Jing grabbed his shirt collar firmly, mocking him and his attempt to beg for sympathy and play the victim. He reminded him of the rumors circulating about him smoking, drinking, and committing crimes of murder and arson, wondering how a person with this alleged cruelty could submit so quickly. For the man to confess, crying that all those stories were just rumors, he launched himself to build a scary persona to protect him at school. Xu Jing did not hesitate to deliver a strong slap to the man's face, warning him in a strict tone that if he forgot the lesson he received today, he would beat him every time he saw him in the future. Then he ordered him to write a self-criticism about bullying his classmates and to read it 10 times in front of the entire class tomorrow morning, ensuring that one of his followers films it on video so Xu Jing could confirm his execution of the order. The man agreed with humiliation and panic, covering his ears and screaming, asking not to be hit again. Xu Jing picked up the phone to see the address of a dojo, training hall, on the screen. So he decided to go himself to ask the master directly instead of relying on that coward who understands nothing. He arrived at the inner ring of the city, where the navigation system guided him to turn right after 120 meters. Meanwhile, system notifications followed in front of him announcing the acquisition of experience points in physical fitness, marksmanship, and health preservation. in addition to activating the combat skill after meeting the conditions. Xu Jing realized then that fighting one battle, even if it wasn't very difficult, grants him gains far exceeding what he gets from hard training in the gym for a whole hour, where his fitness usually increases by only about 200 points. He stood in front of Golden Wind Dojo, noticing that he had awakened a new skill, and thinking that he might have to fabricate problems and fights a lot in the future to increase his strength. He entered the dojo and spoke to the receptionist, telling her of his desire to visit, but she motioned him to be silent because the master was in the middle of a lesson. Xu Jing watched the master explaining to the seated students that what is called the breathing method is the basis for activating force inside the body, and that a person cannot be considered a beginner in martial arts unless the qi energy circulates completely inside their body. Xu Jing's eyes shone with enthusiasm, realizing that this introductory cultivation method is exactly what he was looking for. He approached the girl and asked her in a low voice if he could join, and she agreed, blushing from his handsomeness, but advised him not to overexert himself. As soon as he thanked her and moved to enter, a notification appeared from the system stating he obtained 30 experience points in the charm skill. He sat on the training cushion, while the master was directing instructions to tighten the core muscles and continue inhaling, doubting in secret this new boy's ability to do it from the first time. The master was thinking anxiously that students must inhale air until they can no longer breathe and then hold it, while the girl was thinking to herself that she desperately needed to find talented students, or she would be fired. Exhaustion appeared clearly on the faces of the other students, as their faces turned red as they counted the seconds with great difficulty. Suddenly, the student Kui Cheng Yuan, whom the master held the highest hopes for, could not endure anymore, and blew out the air forcefully, announcing his failure, which caused the girl severe disappointment. The girl apologized to the master and promised him that she would find him a suitable person within a few days. But the master interrupted her, pointing with astonishment towards Xu Jing, asking her to be silent because this boy is still holding on and continuing the training. The master was shocked, realizing that this breathing method seems simple but is extremely difficult, as huge amounts of oxygen flow to the lungs, and those with insufficient lung capacity cannot practice it at all. The master imagined the true qi energy expanding continuously inside Xu Jing's body as if it was about to explode from the intensity of the pressure. Finally, the master announced the end of the time, so Xu Jing exhaled the air forcefully for the system notification to appear, activating the internal force skill successfully. The master rushed towards him eagerly, asking him about his feeling, and the girl asked him if he felt any pain or discomfort anywhere. Xu Jing opened his eyes to examine himself, surrounded by an aura of rising steam, answering calmly that, on the contrary, he felt a refreshing sensation flowing through his body. While the master was asking Xu Jing about his name and offering him to join the Golden Wind Dojo, the girl was holding his hand with intense enthusiasm and her eyes shining with hope, waiting for his answer impatiently. Suddenly, one of the windows shattered violently, and shards flew everywhere, revealing a terrifying shadow with eyes radiating bloody red light, storming the place amid screams of terror. The monster, which looked like a giant insect, pounced on one of the students brutally, sinking its fangs into him amidst scattered blood and screams of pain that tore the silence of the hall. Everyone froze in their places from the horror of the shock, and Xu Jing wondered to himself about the nature of this thing, while the master screamed, ordering everyone to leave quickly and not crowd to save their lives. The girl, who claims to be manager Zhang, tried to maintain order and guide the students as the master asked her. But the monster did not give her time, turning its gaze towards her and pouncing with lightning speed, making her take a desperate defensive stance in the face of this imminent danger. At the decisive moment, Xu Jing intervened with lightning speed, pulling the girl away from the path of the deadly attack to dodge the monster's blow by a very narrow margin. The two fell to the ground, where Xu Jing settled on top of her to protect her, so the girl thanked him, her face burning with shyness, wishing in secret to remain pinned like this forever, while a system notification appeared, granting him 20 additional points in charm. Xu Jing stood up and turned his gaze towards the monster, recalling Beiyu Guang's words about the internal force that gathers energy from all parts of the body and releases it outwards. He decided that this is the perfect opportunity to test what he just learned, so his hand began to glow with bright golden energy in preparation for the attack. The monster rushed towards him again, cutting through the air. So, Xu Jing met it with a direct punch from which huge energy exploded, causing a loud bang in the hall. The dust cleared, but the monster was still standing, which annoyed Xu Jing, who remembered the ability of cockroaches to withstand multiples of their weight, realizing that raw power alone would not be enough. He concluded quickly that he needed to focus all his power in one point to penetrate this creature's defenses. Immediately, he activated the Inch Force skill, directing a concentrated blow with extreme precision towards the monster's armor. A sharp wave of energy launched, penetrating the monster's body and exiting from the other side, causing widespread destruction behind it. The monster fell dead, and Xu Jing dusted off his clothes, saying coldly that the creature was weaker than it seemed. Meanwhile, the girl was looking at him with intense admiration, describing him as wonderful, while the master was in a state of total astonishment, unable to believe that this boy mastered the chi power and released this huge amount of it without his body collapsing. But suddenly the monster rose again, emitting a terrifying hiss, as if refusing to die. Xu Jing stood ready, assuring the monster that the result would be the same no matter how hard it tried to get up. While he was gathering his energy to end the matter, he started coughing blood from his mouth, which made Xu Jing stand amazed, not comprehending what happened to him. Xu Jing noticed the monster rushing towards him at terrible speed, realizing he overestimated his strength. But suddenly the monster was crushed and turned into bloody shreds in a single moment. Xu Jing was shocked that the monster was eliminated with one blow and remained standing in shock, wondering how this happened. The smoke cleared to reveal a woman with silver hair wearing a sophisticated combat suit, standing over the remains of the monster. Xu Jing looked at her, questioning, trying to understand the situation. The woman identified herself as Void Blade, leader of Squad 838 of the White Raven Squad, and ordered all uninvolved individuals to evacuate immediately. Xu Jing watched her with a scrutinizing eye, wondering about the nature of this squad he was hearing about for the first time, and amazed by her power that enabled her to crush the cockroach man with one blow, thinking about whether all members of this organization were this terrifyingly strong. In return, Void Blade was looking at him closely, amazed that a boy of 17 or 18 managed to injure the monster to this extent with his bare hands. Suddenly her face blushed, thinking about his extreme handsomeness, deciding in secret that she must find a reason to recruit him. She approached him and handed him a card, asking him in a mysterious tone to attend at the specified time, which is Sunday at 5 in the afternoon, at the address written on the paper, and promised him that she would tell him everything he wanted to know. Xu Jing looked at the card in his hand silently, finding written on it, Qingcheng Library, 7th floor. Amidst the anxiety of manager Zhang, who surrounded him to check his condition, offering to take him to the hospital or home to check on his health, Xu Jing insisted that he was perfectly fine and there was no need to worry. He thanked her for her kindness and left the place, while manager Zhang bade him farewell with looks full of admiration, asking him to return tomorrow. While the old master sighed, realizing that a small dojo like theirs might not accommodate a dragon like this young man. The girl watched him as he walked away, while the master commented with astonishment on the tremendous power the boy showed with just his first contact with chi energy. While walking back, system notifications followed in front of him, announcing the acquisition of significant experience points in fitness and health preservation, and a huge jump in charm level, in addition to activating the Inch Force skill. Xu Jing explained that this skill relies on gathering chi energy in one point and accelerating it to the maximum in the shortest possible distance, enabling it to penetrate the hardest defenses. Xu Jing felt an overwhelming desire to experience this feeling again, so he began gathering energy in his fist while walking. But he remembered the master's warning that using chi in this reckless way might lead to death, so he decided to stop and take a break tonight, postponing checking the address until the next day. He walked in the dark alleys thinking about the White Raven Squad and the Cockroach Man, wondering about the amount of secrets this world hides, and decided to visit the address written on the card on the weekend. He arrived at his apartment, but before entering he checked his phone to discover that his cat was using his computer. He stood in front of her with strict features, asking her what she was doing with his device. The cat tried to pretend innocence and let out a cute meow while sweating, but Xu Jing sufficed with a silent and scary smile. He decided to postpone the reckoning until after waking up, ignoring her suspicious behavior temporarily. Xu Jing fell into a deep sleep on his bed. Meanwhile, the cat smelled the scent of blood wafting from him, so she wondered anxiously if he had gotten involved in a fight with someone. Her eyes ignited with anger, considering him her special person, and vowing against whoever dared to bully him. Suddenly, she jumped onto Xu Jing's body, asking him seriously to tell her what happened. Here was the surprise, as the cat stood and spoke in human language fluently, introducing herself as Ning Fengnya, leader of the dragon sect, and promised him she would avenge him from whoever hurt him, which made Xu Jing look at her with astonishment. But he quickly regained his composure, telling her with a sarcastic smile that he knew she was human, and went back to sleep indifferent to her screaming and demanding him to listen to her. The next morning, Xu Jing woke up in full health and vigor and sat eating breakfast. The cat was sharing the food with him and realized from his condition that he wasn't beaten, but he was the one who defeated the monster he faced. He confirmed that to her, while she commented with surprise, saying she had never heard of those monsters entering the city area before. Xu Jing stroked her head gently, thanking her for her concern for him and calling her by the name Nair. The cat's face blushed with shyness, and she objected to the name, demanding him to call her by her respectful title, the Leader, but he agreed sarcastically to call her Leader Nair. Then he returned to seriousness, holding the phone and demanding her to explain what she was doing with his device since she could speak. The cat froze in her place and looked shocked as if caught red-handed. She justified her action that the ring on her tail is called cattail ring, a type of God's relic, and she was looking for information about it. Xu Jing approached and grabbed her tail to examine the ring, making the cat scream in panic. Xu Jing remembered the information stating that 287 years ago God died, and it is said that those golden spots of light are God's relics. He realized then that he had only heard about them in stories, but now he sees one in front of him, and this explains his system's ability to absorb divinity from it. He continued pinching her tail while thinking deeply, while the cat was screaming at him angrily to withdraw his hand and stop bothering her. Xu Jing coughed lightly, trying to hide his laugh, wondering if the cat was looking for instructions on using that strange ring. But the cat, Nair, denied that strongly, her face burning with shame, confirming she only wanted to remove it. While trying to evade, she confessed she didn't know how to remove it at all, which made Xu Jing look at her with a meaningful look. Nair began telling her story, revealing she is the leader of the Dragon Sect, the largest gang in Qingcheng City, controlling entertainment venues and cooperating with martial arts halls in the illicit trade. She explained that the rapid expansion of her sect aroused the envy of others, leading to a treacherous attack on her private villa, where someone put that ring on her, turning her into a cat. By the time she managed to escape, the sect had fallen into someone else's hands, and she is now unable to return to her human form except by removing that ring. Her eyes shone with a fierce, vengeful look, swearing that once she returns to normal, she will kill all those who betrayed her. Xu Jing asked her about her next plan, pointing out that searching the library might be futile if he didn't find anything on the internet. The cat stood confidently, announcing she already had a plan ready for this matter. The plan is for Xu Jing to train in martial arts and become strong, which raised the young man's surprise about the relationship between his strength and her problem. She explained to him that strength would attract the attention of various organizations to recruit him, and perhaps among them would be holders of God's relics, which would enable him to investigate and find a way to remove the ring. Xu Jing smiled nervously, realizing that organizations had already started knocking on his door. The cat offered to guide him to the best dojo in the city, so he asked her curiously what she meant. She mentioned the name Hidden Dragon Dojo, a familiar name to Xu Jing. He remembered searching for it previously when he wanted to learn fighting, but found their fees extremely exorbitant. Not only that, but he remembered the reviews were disastrous, as everyone described it as a fraud, and that the masters never show up. He showed her the negative comments on the screen, where students complain about neglect and losing their money. Nair mocked those comments, describing their authors as scum who can't handle hardship, confirming that this dojo is highly respected among true martial artists. And when he asked how to enter, she answered simply, by storming the dojo, which is a tradition in the Jianghu world, making Xu Jing worry they wouldn't accept him if he smashed their place. She looked at him with contempt, explaining that storming is just a job interview in their custom. She explained the hierarchy of trainees to him. Those who pay money are at the bottom, followed by the talented ones, and at the top come those who storm the dojo because money is useless without talent. She emphasized that the mindset and the invincible spirit are the most important things in martial arts. She confirmed that storming the dojo is the best way to prove this fighting spirit. She asked him to go alone tomorrow because she had matters to attend to, then left through the window. The next day, Xu Jing arrived at the Hidden Dragon Dojo, where a student welcomed him with a smile. Xu Jing extended his hand for a handshake with the intention of starting the challenge, but he was surprised by the student squeezing his hand with tremendous force, realizing that this was a test. He decided to deal with it seriously, so he gathered the true Qi energy in his hand. He squeezed with crushing force that made the student scream in pain and beg him to let go. Another student laughed, trying to lighten the atmosphere, claiming that this student is obsessed with fighting and always loses, while the rest of the students mocked their defeated colleague. Suddenly, voices rose, alerting the arrival of the old master and the direct disciples. A majestic group entered, centered around an old man in a wheelchair with a black cat in his lap, and behind him stood the dojo's strongest fighters, raising questions among the students about the reason for gathering all these big figures and whether the dojo was facing a major problem. Xu Jing looked with surprise at the black cat sitting in the old man's lap, wondering why Nair was here, before the old man ordered everyone to be quiet. He directed his sharp gaze towards the young man standing boldly in front of him, asking him if he was the person who came with the intention of storming the dojo, while the cat looked on with confidence and defiance. Xu Jing assessed the situation in his mind, considering that the aura surrounding the place was not bad at all. The old master Ming Boshang smiled a smile carrying many meanings, pointing out that it had been a long time since anyone dared to come to his place with the intention of storming, and asked the young man seriously if he thought he was qualified for that. Xu Jing was confused for a moment, reviewing his system panel which showed low levels in combat skills compared to his physical fitness, making him unsure how to answer a question regarding qualification. Instead of testing strength immediately, the master surprised him with a barrage of personal questions, starting with his name and age, to which Xu Jing answered briefly that he was 17. The interrogation continued, asking about his place of residence and his parents' work, and whether he was an only child or had siblings, making Xu Jing wonder secretly in amazement about the reason for these strange questions, as if he were in a marriage interview, not a combat test. Suddenly, the old man burst out laughing, justifying his questions that he must know more about the future son-in-law, which made the cat cough in severe shock at this description. Xu Jing and the cat stood exchanging confused looks, not comprehending what was happening. A young girl named Chu Shan-ying interrupted this strange atmosphere, addressing the old man as grandpa, and emphasizing that regardless of his qualification, he must fight first, then turned to Xu Jing, promising him that she would go easy on him. Xu Jing signaled her with his hand to start, while one of the students commented that this little junior sister was moving with total seriousness to kill him. The cat watched the scene with annoyance, grumbling that they were still competing despite the old man's talk about a marriage interview. The cat warned Xu Jing to pay attention, while the girl rushed towards him with high focus. The girl executed a combat technique, but Xu Jing moved with lightning speed, dodging her attack. With a smooth movement, he grabbed her arm and used her momentum to flip her in the air. The girl hit the ground with force that made her feel dizzy, ending the fight in an instant. The senior disciples expressed their intense admiration for his dynamic vision and positioning accuracy, likening his style to theirs in their younger days. The old master laughed with overwhelming happiness, praising the cat for finding him a good seedling to cultivate, while the cat felt proud and admitted to herself that she had been worried about him. System notifications appeared for Xu Jing, announcing his victory and gaining significant combat experience because the weak defeated the strong, in addition to an increase in charm and fitness. The old master announced his decisive decision. Since Xu Jing managed to defeat Chu Shan-ying without practicing martial arts before, he is undoubtedly qualified to become a direct disciple. The old man laughed again, asking him if it was time to change the way he addressed him. The dojo disciples gathered around Xu Jing, congratulating and welcoming him as the seventh junior brother, amidst an atmosphere of familiarity and fun. Chu Shan-ying sat on the ground shyly, introducing herself as the sixth sister, and admitting that she underestimated the enemy and it would not happen again. Xu Jing thanked her for her guidance, while she muttered with annoyance because she was the youngest before his arrival. Another lady stepped forward to offer him to complete the admission procedures, addressing him as Young Master Xu, which sparked his surprise at the title. The master explained to him that his direct disciples cannot be looked down upon, and starting from today, he is nominally considered a resident of the inner circle, so the title Young Master is perfectly appropriate. Xu Jing felt embarrassed and asked to change the title because it seemed strange. The lady suggested the title Master Jing, so Xu Jing agreed nervously, saying that anything that suits them is fine. In the break room, Xu Jing sat stroking the cat, commenting that storming the dojo wasn't as difficult as she described, as the girl fell with one blow, but the cat corrected his information, confirming that the girl was actually much stronger than him. Although Xu Jing excels in physical strength, martial arts do not rely only on numbers, but mental state, intelligence, luck, and decision-making are crucial factors that can turn the scales of victory and defeat. Xu Jing sat stroking the cat, who analyzed his last fight intelligently, confirming that his victory was born of his opponent underestimating him. For if the girl had been more cautious and waited for him to move first, the result would have been completely different. Xu Jing did not deny that, but admitted with serious features that luck was on his side this time, which meant he desperately needed to double his training to compensate for the lack of experience. He asked the cat where she stayed last night, and she told him she spent the whole night in the dojo trying to extract information from Grandpa Li, as the cat revealed, laughing, that this old man was once a romantic rival to her grandfather and almost stole her grandmother. While Xu Jing was joking with the cat about the old man's exciting past, the employee interrupted them to present him with his new identity card, allowing him to enter the dojo freely next times, which increased his charm points. The next day, Xu Jing engaged in hellish training, standing in the horse stance for long hours with his body dripping with sweat, while system notifications followed announcing a massive increase in his fitness, internal force, and health preservation. He didn't stop for a single moment, pushing his body to its limits, and motivating himself to hold on a little longer so that the whole night's effort wouldn't go to waste. Finally, his effort was crowned with a new breakthrough, as his internal force level reached level 3, and he fell to the ground panting from extreme exhaustion. The old master watched him with intense admiration, declaring sincerely that he is the strongest disciple he has seen and accepted in his entire life. He promised him that very soon he would be able to learn the Hidden Dragon Sect cultivation method, and a chart appeared showing Xu Jing's balanced capabilities. Enthusiasm ignited in Xu Jing's eyes, and he demanded to learn the method immediately, which made the master wonder at his haste and obsession with martial arts. The master suddenly grabbed Xu Jing's hand, asking him to stay still, and began pumping a huge amount of true qi into his body to examine it. Xu Jing felt a sweeping current of energy storming his body, finding himself completely unable to resist this overwhelming power. The master asked him in astonishment about the sport he usually practices. So Xu Jing answered nervously, trying to pull his hand away, that he only sticks to running and some simple exercises. The master reassured him that his body was perfectly healthy and suffered from nothing wrong. On the contrary, he described his body as a masterpiece, as if a god with obsessive-compulsive disorder had sculpted it, where every muscle, bone, and internal organ is balanced terrifyingly and perfectly. The master realized he was facing a true martial arts genius, while Xu Jing knew deep down that the credit went to the system that reshaped his body after activating the combat skill. Xu Jing returned to insisting on learning the cultivation method now, but the master refused firmly. He explained to him that his excessive training all night filled his body with hidden internal injuries, and attempting cultivation in this state is no different from seeking death. Xu Jing was shocked and asked what he should do then. The master ordered him to go to the break room first, where he would send someone with sleeping dragon ointment to treat him shortly. Xu Jing arrived at the room and entered. The sixth sister, Chu Shan-ying, entered wearing light clothes with a medicine bottle in her hand, telling him she came to treat his injuries. Features of terror appeared on Xu Jing's face, wondering to himself if she had come to take revenge on him because of her previous defeat. But she surprised him by asking him to take off his shirt with a bold smile. Xu Jing took off his shirt, revealing his muscular body, so the girl praised his strong physique while blushing and asked him to lie down. Xu Jing lay down with extreme tension, while a notification appeared stating the generation of a large amount of goodwill and increased charm points, and she asked him not to move. While she was applying the ointment to his back and moving over him, Xu Jing was sweating and wondering in internal panic what this woman really intended to do to him. The sixth sister began applying the ointment to Xu Jing's chest with strong touches, asking him not to look at her that way and admitting that she is a very competitive person. While she was pressing hard on his muscles, Xu Jing noted in secret that this woman's grip was incredibly strong, while his face was blushing from the situation. He tried to justify what she was doing, telling her it was fine as long as she was happy with it. while he remained silent and embarrassed. The girl admitted that her loss to him was due to her negligence, but she decided to use this opportunity to avenge herself a little by teasing him deliberately during the treatment. Meanwhile, system notifications appeared telling Xu Jing that he was generating a huge amount of goodwill, increasing his charm points significantly, so the girl asked coquettishly if he was angry with her. He answered her with his eyes closed, surrendering to the reality that he wasn't angry, as the pain was minor and he could handle it, asking her to continue and not worry about him. She finished treating the upper part, then surprised him with a bold request to take off his pants to treat the lower part, which made him jump in panic. He tried to evade, saying he would treat the lower part himself, and there was no need to bother her. But she insisted and moved closer to him, cornering him. Suddenly she burst out laughing, covering her mouth, telling him she was only joking to test how scared he was, and asked him to treat himself, while bidding him farewell with the title, Seventh Junior Brother. The girl stood up and left the room, leaving the ointment bottle for him. As soon as she left, a system notification appeared stating that Xu Jing had completed a session of Dormant Dragon Stance training, gaining experience points in fitness and stance. Xu Jing went out to the street breathing a sigh of relief, admitting that that woman was scary and almost tore his limbs apart, while the system announced his level increase in combat and internal force. He felt satisfied with this rapid progress, and since he had nothing else to do, he decided to head to the library to attend the appointment specified on the card. He took out the card bearing the name White Raven Squad, thinking that the name sounded childish and exaggerated, but he knew that they were in fact the special police organization in Qingcheng City. He stood in front of the huge library building in the city center, wondering why this place was chosen for the meeting. He went up to the 7th floor of Qingcheng Library, finding it completely empty of people, raising his suspicion that he might have been tricked. But a female voice called him by name, so he turned to find an elegant blonde girl introducing herself as Wu Yu Qing, explaining the meaning of her name. So Xu Jing asked her directly about Void Blade's whereabouts and the reason for meeting here. She explained to him that Void Blade is her private informant, and referring someone to her means joining the special police center, admitting she was skeptical at first, but agreed after seeing him. She sat on the table coquettishly, offering him to join them with a confident smile. Xu Jing refused the offer immediately and asked her about the reasons that would drive him to agree. The girl smiled and asked him if he didn't want to know more about God's relics. Xu Jing's eyes widened in shock and tension as soon as he heard those words. The girl noticed his reaction and confirmed she guessed correctly, wondering how he knew about the concept of God's relics in the first place. Xu Jing sufficed with saying he had no comment, while he was thinking in secret with concern about this woman's background and what she knew about him. She took out a fancy water bottle and poured from it into a cup, saying that not providing information first was her problem. She pushed the cup towards him and asked him to taste it, so Xu Jing took the cup continuously and took a sip. He looked at her with surprise and asked if this wasn't just pure water, wondering to himself what exactly she was trying to do. She didn't answer, but took the same water bottle and poured more into his cup and asked him to taste it again. Xu Jing looked at the cup and at her with suspicion, surprised by her insistence even though it was normal water. But as soon as he drank from it this time, his eyes widened with extreme astonishment, for the taste of the water suddenly changed and became sweet. Wu Yu Qing began narrating ancient history, explaining that 287 years ago, God died, or to be more accurate, the idol died, and upon his death, countless points of light scattered from his fading body to cover the entire world in a majestic scene. Humans initially called those points God's blood, which fell and settled inside objects and living beings, and perhaps even in parts of human imagination. She explained that the things in which this blood settled are known as God's relics, showing him a glowing kettle in her hands called Sweetwater Kettle, bearing the serial number 1567. Xu Jing looked at the kettle with suspicion, asking to examine it himself to make sure she hadn't put sugar in it beforehand, so she agreed with a confident smile, saying, "Of course." As soon as his hands touched the glowing surface of the kettle, system notifications appeared before him announcing the discovery of divine material and the start of absorbing divinity, increasing his balance and exceeding the limit required to activate his skill. He realized with astonishment and overwhelming joy that he could really absorb divinity just by touching the relics, which meant his active skill was saved. So he asked her, curiously, about the kettle's function, and if its wondrous function was limited to making water sweet without sugar, or if it boils it from nothing. The girl laughed lightly, covering her mouth, telling him his guess was close but not entirely accurate, describing him as cute for his lack of experience with the world. Xu Jing noticed that the amount of water didn't decrease despite continuous pouring, so he concluded intelligently that the water inside it was infinite, which the girl confirmed, praising his quick wit. She announced the activation of the kettle's active skill, pointing out that as a top student in Qingcheng High School, he should realize the meaning of this matter. Xu Jing was shocked when he realized that this thing completely ignores the laws of physics, as it resembles a perpetual motion machine capable of overturning the fundamental laws of the universe, and began thinking about the possibility that the infinite electricity in the inner circle was related to these things. Wu Yuqing interrupted him by snapping her fingers, advising him not to overthink, as the existence of God's relics in itself symbolizes the absurdity that humans cannot imitate. So Xu Jing asked her seriously about the reason for telling him all this and volunteering information. She presented him with a golden business card for Wu Company for containment and research of God's relics, reminding him of his fight against the Cockroach Man 3 days ago, where he faced a terrifying monster with the body of an ordinary person without showing an ounce of fear. And she assured him that on the spiritual level, he has surpassed the vast majority of people by stages. With a charming smile, she offered him to officially join their company to contain relics. Xu Jing did not hesitate for a moment, but grabbed her hand with intense enthusiasm and features overflowing with feigned sincerity, begging her to accept him into her team immediately. He shouted, confirming his total obedience to her orders, while screaming inside with overwhelming joy, realizing that working in a relic containment company is the divine workplace he must enter at any cost to collect points.